It's, I'm going to interrupt a whole bunch of conversation here at the beginning of that. My name is Anna, I'm associate director here at the University of YMCA, working with the Friday Forum and Conversation Cafe program. It's one of my favorite things to do every week. This has been a really great series. I see a number of people who have been here, multiple times during the series. We have one more week left of this fall's Friday Forum series. So I have just a couple of announcements. One of those is to definitely invite you to come back next week. We have Tracy Davis for training here. Super excited to hear from Tracy on green next week. Tracy is also one of our students that we not able to be quite working. And then we're down to the wire. Digital things next in the gallery in the stage title behind us here. This is the last day actually of the exhibition of the meeting, which is by Smith. It's been a great show. Lots of people will come in and see it. If you're not seeing it, it will come out very quickly on Monday morning. Going up then next week with the resolution of next Thursday, we're super excited to do the work of two longtime artists in this community, Michael Fairfield, pictured here in front of the postcard, and Betty Drake, who unfortunately is a deceased artist in this community, but we'll be showing the work of both of those gentlemen opening next Thursday, November 10th in the evening. So you're welcome to come to that opening reception, and there'll be a great show out next week. Also, we're in our last week of the Winter Coat Drive. I think folks know that one of the initiatives of the University of YMCA is the New American Welcome Center, where we serve lots of recent immigrants. Lots of folks need the homes. So you can have a spiritual and closet, or you're inclined to buy but one more week to photograph it around here with the front lawn and why and then here you much questions. So those are my announcements for the day. I'm going to my friend Michelle, I'll be the person who does this education provider for having me this partnership.
Diversity and social justice education for Juvenile. And I just wanted to go through and thank a few of our sponsors. Regional Florida, so we have the Center for Advanced Study, Humanities Research Institute, Women and Gender and Global Perspectives Program, College of ACES, College of Fine and Applied Arts, the First Mennonite Church of Champaign, Urbana, the McKinley Foundation, the Social Action Council of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Urbana Champaign, Urbana Champaign Friends Meeting, the Student Cultural Programming Fee through the University, Center for Global Studies and the U.S. Department of Education Title VI Grant, Center for Innovation in Teaching and Learning, Department of African American Studies, Office of the Provost, School of Social Work, College of Education, and then Urbana Public Television here in the back, and WEOC Radio, who is going to be with radio as well. The other thing that I wanted to quickly highlight is that you have this fact sheet in front of you. Evaluation forms for this program to improve the program. So if there are particular things you enjoy or want to see, that is a great place to put it. You can read all of them. And with that, I'm going to pass this over to Sam for the rest of the day.
Thank you very, very much. Welcome to the YMCA Friday Forum. I get to sort of host this lovely conversation with some people that I've known for a long time, some not so long, but some folks that I'm getting to know who are involved in this really important work in Champaign County. And I want to thank you for now. I am going to spend a little time and tell you what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. But first, what I would like you to do is, this is a pod. And these are your pod people. Okay? And what I want you to do is, I want you to take a minute and look at all the people that are in your pod. Look at your pod people. You can smile at them if you like. You can wave at them if you like. You don't have to smile, but you want you to sort of look at your pod people. If we had more time, we might do a little exercise together. You may have been hearing slogans and phrases like "we are better together," right? I think that is really true. I think some of our best solutions to the challenges that we have come out of small, intimate gatherings where we develop enough trust to venture on really bad ideas with one another so that we can get feedback on it and move on to better ideas. I think one of the best things to come out of this kind of gathering is to remind us, one, that we are the best thing that we have. And then two, we're stuck like hell with each other. So I'm not going anywhere, you're probably not going anywhere, so here we are, right? So we're actually going to talk about something that is fairly difficult. We're going to talk about this thing called juvenile justice, and I've invited 4 people that I love, admire, and respect, who are doing work in that regard, and they are going to spend a few minutes responding to 3 questions. One of those questions is, what is their work, their role related to juvenile justice? What is it that they do? What is it that they aspire to do? The second question is, what are obstacles to that role, to that mission? And then finally, what is one wonderful partnership or project or policy change that they would like to see? So I'm going to suggest to you that when we are in settings where we can create a lot of trust, then people individually are more willing to venture and to disclose what they think and what they feel. So in lieu of a list of ground rules, I'm going to ask, you can ask difficult and hard questions, but I'm going to ask that you take care of these lovely human beings that are willing to be here. I will also ask each of you to think about what comes to mind when you think of the phrase juvenile justice. And actually, I wouldn't mind hearing juvenile justice. What do you think? I'll call on you. I can do that. I can go like, yes.
I think of the injustice.
Okay, think of the injustice, remind me right there, the injustice. Got a hand? Got a hand? What do you, when you think of, when you see the term juvenile justice, what do you think of? Yes.
Aspiration.
Aspiration, thank you very much. I can go on that. When you think of the term, you see the term juvenile justice, what do you think of? Yes. Okay, so when you think of there seems to be some dissonance in the words juvenile. You think of childhood and growth And then when we think of justice, so earlier today, I was doing just a little bit of reading about justice and came across something that I thought was very interesting, which is a definition of a sort of a look at justice in 4 parts. And I just want to share that with you. But I also just want to ask you about some terms. How many of you heard the term transformative justice? Should raise your hands. Okay, a few people. How many of you heard the term transitional justice? Okay, a few people. How many have heard the term restorative justice? Okay, so I'm going to just identify these sort of 4 types of justice that I came across, which I thought was really interesting. But transitional justice, restorative justice, retributional justice, and distributive justice. And maybe it's a point I'll define this term here, but you probably have the phone, you can look them up. I don't want to take much longer because I want to give our friends an opportunity to introduce themselves. And so just a very quick introduction. At the far end is my brother, Tracy Gase. Tracy is the founder of an organization called Dream. I've been in Champaign County close to 40 years, and I think Tracy does some of the most substantive, deep work with Black males that I've ever seen. It's really beautiful, comprehensive, holistic, loving, rigorous work. Next to Tracy is Julia Reitz, who's Champaign County State's Attorney. Our girls grew up together, so we're often pretty stories about how they are. And Julia has become a friend, and I really want to acknowledge the challenge in having a public official in an open forum like this. We have talked about the value, how important it is that we create spaces where all of us can sort of share what our thinking is, what our vision is for our time. So really, we had this conversation almost 2 years ago, and sort of here we are. So thank you very much. And Ebony Eppinger is she's not because I'm just getting her. Ebony is a researcher with the Center for Prevention and Research Development, and she and Dr. Doug Smith here is a professor in the School of Social Work, are doing some work around racial disparities in transfer of cases from juvenile court to adult court. Very specific. And then my really good friend Erica Hughes, who's a coordinator of a project called Juvenile Redeploy Initiative, and Juvenile Redeploy is a statewide initiative that seeks to redeploy funding that's used to incarcerate juveniles into other kinds of support for juveniles. And Erica and I and some other people are dreaming wildly about developing a kind of juvenile redeploy initiative in Champaign County. If you would have any interest in that, I would love to hear from you. So who would like to start? Okay, so the 3 questions. What's your mission? Who are you? Love to know who you are, how you got started. What's your mission in juvenile justice? What are obstacles in that? One ideal partnership or project you'd love to see.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for coming out and thanks for having me. I'm Amy Eppinger. I am the research program coordinator at the Center for Prevention, Research and Development. PRD for short, it's a research center that has been in the school of culture for the university. So I work with the president law and probably, I was telling you, so I've been in this role for almost a year now. I'm originally from Nebraska, that's where I have from the shoes, like my hometown, I just recently moved a couple months ago. So I still kind of do the process of learning, getting to know everybody, getting to know this is another. So my main goal, when I was telling this earlier, I really feel like my main goal, what I do is kind of more behind me because I'm the research media expert. I work with the Illinois Juvenile Justice Commission, I did so I work with the Drea, who is virtually. I work with her and with her all juvenile justice related. The two main things that CPRB works on right over, you want to join the pension of you, and then as well as you have to reserve and mention. Doug and I are now specifically looking at the racial parity, the things you're going to transfer to we see the data, we see the numbers, what we really want to dig for understanding why. This is what I children. We have first part of this project, so we're just kind of getting this project off the ground, so we'll kind of see where it goes in the next year. So that's kind of an overview of behind the scenes, building those partnerships with people like where if they need the data analysis to be able to make those informed decisions, that's what I'm here for, that is what. So that's kind of why I basically kind of behind the scenes, we work with those who community partners who work with the user. The biggest challenge, because I'm more like a research and data nerd, and I call myself, the biggest challenge I see within my home sometimes is the data, sometimes the data that we want or that we need to make these informed policy decisions, or it's not always there. So sometimes what I think my role as far as I think are we home here now is, sometimes the community partner really wanting to control the data, and sometimes we don't have the ability to do that. And I know that's kind of like a simple, a simplified way of kind of explaining that challenge, but it is hard for me as a researcher to not be able to provide data, especially when we really do need the data to make sure that we're making informed decisions when it does come to me. So that's the biggest challenge that I face. Now, in terms of policy change, I'm not sure if the policy change that is helping overcome that challenge. But what I have been able to do since I've been at this role, I come to the Illinois people and build some partnerships with all of you that are for facing, you are the one that comes to you. So that's where I see myself overcoming the challenge as a researcher is to be able to build those partnerships with you. Since I've been here, I want to continue to build those partnerships. Doug, I know you're kind of anything you'd like to
Sure.
Sure.
Okay.
That question here.
Oh,
So he likes
I just want to a little bit to add. So some of the other issues. We do provide data from all 16 juvenile detention centers and across the state. The data are very valuable because they help us monitor specific trends, legislative issues. Though a couple of areas where we contributed to we have to do with raises or raising the age legislation in the state house. There's currently a minimum age to detain youth in the state of Illinois. So you have some 10 to 12 year olds in the system. And a lot of these are frankly family type situations and different situations that we want to track the data for how long they're being in the detention center. Was it truly necessary for protecting public safety? That's a question that Julia has to answer all the time. It's really complicated and difficult question to answer. But we, at the heart of everything we do is, keeping them on racial disparities and ways that we can look at reducing racial disparities in justice. So I think that's part of it. So thank you, Sam.
Thanks,
Are there any of you in the room at interest or do work related to race and ethnicity and culture? Just raise your hand if you do. Really honest. But okay. I think this is a sort of interesting challenge, like how you get data. I'm in the last 2 years that I've been in this conversation around juvenile justice, I'm often very surprised at what we don't know. Like I bet you all $100 right now that you can walk into any high school and maybe besides Lori Britt, who's back there, you won't find someone who can tell you the exact number of kids in the 9th grade that are on probation. I find that astounding in a research institution community. But so there's all of this data that I think we may assume is there and is available that is really sort of hard to get your hands on. So who would like to go next? No, Julia, you should. Yeah, we'll say Erica. Since she does a program, so.
So I'm Julia Reese, I'm the state's attorney here in Champaign County. That means that I am the chief prosecutor for Champaign County. And that covers all violations of state law, anything from traffic offenses to homicides and everything in between. So juvenile delinquency cases are part of my responsibility. I was elected in 2004. I am on my 5th term as state's attorney. I have been a prosecutor since I graduated from Juvenile College of Law in 1993. And joined the state's attorney's office. I left for a short time as a private practice, where I handled a lot of family law cases, and then was ran for election in 2004. I was elected at that time. As I said, am responsible for the prosecution of juvenile delinquency cases. We also handle child welfare cases in which families are involved with the Department of Children and Family Services. So we represent the state in those matters. We also handle child support cases where we represent custodial parents who are indigent and can afford their own counsel, and we represent them in child support cases. So these are, I say those other things because those all really fall into the overall umbrella family cases that are handled by the state's attorney's office, and oftentimes they cross over one to the other and into the adult criminal justice system, because many times the youth that we're dealing with in the juvenile delinquency area have family members, parents, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, cousins, on and on and on, who are involved in the adult criminal justice. Unfortunately, oftentimes when we look at the youth who's in the juvenile delinquency system, we do a family tree and we see, this is not an isolated situation. So it's not just looking at the youth, him or herself, but having to look at the entire extended family and social construct that young person is coming from when they are in front of us in the juvenile court. So I myself handle these juvenile delinquency cases along with one of my assistants. I also handle, and when I was a young prosecutor, I handled the juvenile abuse and neglect cases, the child welfare cases. Right after I had my daughter, It was very transformative to me, look at, young parents who had all kinds of issues and burdens that I didn't have, as hard as it was for me to be a young mother. To see the young people, parents, having to try to navigate parenthood without, some of the benefits that I had. So, I came into it from that perspective. So, so I handle many of these cases myself, I have for years. And what that means is that I know many of the young people, the juveniles, the youth, their families, their mothers, their grandmothers, brothers and sisters. I know them and I know generations of them because I've been a part of the justice system in the community for, as long as I have. And I always say, Champaign County is a big, small town. It's big, but small enough that we all know each other, we know the families, we know the histories, and we run into each other in the grocery store. So that gives me a perspective on the young people that I'm seeing in front of me, that I think is significant. So the goal of the juvenile court is to move young people forward in a positive direction. Hopefully not move them forward into the adult criminal system, but move them forward to being productive members of our community. That is the goal. And I always say that it is a staircase, and we hope to stay on the very lowest stairs on that staircase. So we hope to start with community-based programming and supports to keep them out of the court system. So at intercept 0 is what it's called. There's different intercepts where people become involved in the criminal justice system, and intercept 0 is before we even get there, before the police become involved, for the judges and the prosecutors and the police reports and all of that. So that's in the schools and in the homes and in the community and in the faith-based organizations. So that's where we hope the interventions can start so that they don't, so I don't even know this. I don't understand this. They are not part of the courthouse process. So we have created an organization called the Youth Assessment Center in order to divert young people out of the criminal justice system. And that's a county-based program that I was involved in creating, where police, social services, school individuals can send a situation, a young person, to the Youth Assessment Center where they are evaluated, they do evaluations, they sit, they come up with contracts and agreements, maybe public service work, maybe counseling, maybe just stay out of trouble. And then hopefully I never see that report, never see that young person. But if not, if we end up in the court system, if we have virtual programs internal to the court system, and we try, again, it's a step process, and I tell the mothers this when I see them in court. The goal here is to keep them from moving up the staircase to the Department of Juvenile Justice or transfer to adult court, depending on the circumstances. I think there are a lot of people who don't believe me that that's the goal, but I'm telling y'all that is good. So, unfortunately though, one of the difficulties of the juvenile justice system is a lack of those programs or those supports to send our young people to. And in my experience, I've seen many programs come and many programs go. And in my experience, successful programs require people who walk the walk and don't just talk. Sitting here next to me is a prime example. Sitting here, a prime example, and I see many faces in the room. Prime examples of people who walk the walk and don't just talk the talk. Right? Because you have to be passionate and inspired and care to deal with these very difficult situations and these very complicated and complex young people. They're like from the movie Shrek, you know, when Donkey describes, when the ogre, Shrek describes what an ogre is. Shrek will say, you know, an ogre is like an onion, they have layers, right? The young people that we deal with are like onions, they have lots of layers. And so a successful program requires people who really are impassioned and care about the young people in our community, and those programs coming up. So the difficulty is that there are not enough of those to serve the many young people in the complex issues we deal with. And when I say complex issues, are going to be just very blunt. Guns. Guns. There are so many guns in the hands of the young people in our community. We cannot ignore it. No, we're not talking about shoplifting. We're not talking about fights in school anymore. We're not talking about breaking into cars. We're not talking about stealing cars. Now, our focus is guns and shooting and death and danger and terror. So that is blunt. So we need those kinds of programs to address these very complex situations, and they need to start at a much younger age than they start now. The second, so if I had a wish, and then I'll pass this on. If I had a wish, I would wish for more programs that address two parts of this complex situation that I feel don't get addressed enough or don't get enough reason. We focus so much on the young men, and we have not argued with that. We don't focus enough on the young women who end up supporting these young men, who end up carrying their babies, who end up putting money on their books, who end up knowing that they're where the guns are, who end up being abused physically and mentally, and who don't blossom into the powerful young women that they should blossom into. So that's one. And two, we don't have enough support for the family members who these young men are coming back to. And many of them are the young women and the women I'm talking about. I see them sitting in the back of the courtroom, they're either angry, terrified, tired. They don't have the resources and the support that they need to be strong enough to navigate and support the young men who are the focus of all of this gun violence. So there it is, one.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I just want to intervene for catch my breath. But intervene just for a second and go back to something that Doug was talking about, which is the detention of children 10 to 12 years of age. So, and I'm thinking about a definition of transformative justice. And I would ask you to sort of look it up, but this is what I learned from our young activists who's not here today, Drake Montieri. But if we don't call the police, if we decide we're not going to call the police, then what are we going to do instead? And who's going to intervene instead? So that is my understanding of the basis of transformative justice. How do we respond to circumstances in our county, in our neighborhoods, in our families without engaging the formal systems? Maybe that's a zero intercept point, right? Thinking about work there. The other thing that I'm struck by in Julia's description is the recognition that the juveniles from juvenile justice are embedded within a network, family, a neighborhood, or a school. And I know on my part, there's a strong tendency to think about a kid a perpetrator and a victim, and to not think about the network in which that exists. And we here in this room are part of that network for juvenile justice in Champaign County in one form or fashion. Maybe some very direct, like Lori Britt, who's one of the coordinators for the Youth Assessment Center that Julia just mentioned. She's sitting back there in the corner. You can ask her questions after if you'd like to, but that's a really interesting way of beginning to rethink this, is to ask myself the question, what is my relationship to youth in this community that might be involved with the legal system, or might be involved with guns, or my relationship to those women or to those families. And so I'm going to move on to Mr. Dace, who's the founder of the DREAM program. You can tell them who you are, what your role is.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tracy Davis again. I'm the founder and CEO of DREAM, and DREAM is an acronym for Driven to Reach Excellence and Academic Achievement for Males in our community. We founded and opened DREAM in 2015 with the mission of developing successful pathways for young Black boys to enter kindergarten with more skill or preparation for readiness. And the early beginning of DREAM was really this larger goal of how can we increase academic achievement and hope in boys, so that down the road, this will like this incarceration, other big problems that we face in our community. I'm going to try to be very limited in what I share about DREAM. Next week, I invite you to come back and give my presentation on DREAM, where I'll talk more about the organization and the work that we're doing in this community around violence prevention. However, today I just want to share that DREAM is a pipeline organization. It's a pipeline, opportunity pipeline, where we start with boys at the age of 3, with the goal of staying alive until the age of 24. And along that pipeline, along that pathway, that life, that journey for young people in our community, we want to build, skill, nurture, hope, and give them that sense of agency in their lives, that they can go on into those transformative things that we know that they're destined to become. One aspect of DREAM is our work around juvenile justice. The DREAM is funded by the Illinois Department of Juvenile Justice, operating at David Morgan Center in our community. So, when Sam mentioned that we don't necessarily know all the data in our community about our children, we have children in Champaign, and I'll say next to that's work countywide, who because of their involvement in the justice system, they are taken away from their homes and their schools and their community and churches and their loved ones, and detained at state level facilities. So our boys, our girls are going away and being imprisoned, incarcerated in state facilities, which we think of that many times in the adult context, but we have young people in that situation. And they are returning to our community with a lot of resources, sometimes a lot of support, not only for them, but also for the family. So we are funded through the State Department to create this data work center. It's a reentry space. When I first met with the state about 4 or 5 years ago, and this conversation of around the data work center, I made it very clear to them, this is not a punitive space. This is not a space for police and parole officers to come and harass children. This is going to be a youth development space. This is going to be a transformative justice space. This is going to be a space where we treat them with dignity. And so we made that commitment 5 years ago, and we continue to move forward in that direction. So at the Data Reporting Center, young people who come back to our communities have an opportunity to concentrate and receive support, love, and services in many different ways. We offer, in collaboration with other providers, we offer, mental health services, substance abuse services. We also provide life coaching that can help with actualizing the goals that they have. We assist them with completing high school or also post-secondary goals that they have. We go to court with them, we engage their families, we assist them with, all sorts of things from an outfit for an interview, boots for a job, to, going beyond college, really just being here for them, when they need us. That is important because in return to our community, they have to return with the sense that someone cares about my future, someone cares about who I am, someone doesn't see me for the criminal case that I'm charged for. And we need more sanctuaries like that in our community for young people. I agree with, State Attorney Reeves that there's a missing element of this opportunity for us in our community. We support and serve and we help young people, but we do not expand and include families in that, and parents in that work. And so in order for us to really be transformative in the issues, the big problems that we have in our community, we have to broaden and widen the services and make it more comprehensive and holistic. Another area that I see as a challenge for us is we need to approach trauma healing in a more intentional manner in our community. Like Julia said, we know it's there, and it's not that we're avoiding it. I'm not sure we know how to address it or to heal it, but that's an area where we have to think about how do we break generational trauma. How do we heal our young people? How do we heal these young women so that they can go on and thrive in their lives? And that's only because we see it every day. You know, and she mentioned that this is they're aware of this trauma that's happening in our community. That is it. And how will we begin to really work with the family unit in order to help them to move forward in life? Another area of training is we are working in some ways of prevention. We also have a very called training chasers. So these are 18 to 24-year-olds in our community who have been marginalized and disconnected in many ways. And so they're not involved in criminal justice. We're trying to build knowledge, provide experience for them to move forward. Because the beautiful part about Champaign County is that we have amazing, brilliant, smart, energetic, thoughtful, young people, young Black people, with dreams. The ugly part of Champaign County is that they have not received the support and the skills from our community and our schools to actualize, to know how to achieve those areas. But that's the mission of trade is to be here to support, to walk alongside, to be a mentor, a coach, a social worker, a great daddy, a mom, grandma, whatever we need to do in order for our young people to be on that path to being great, and to successfully are that they deserve to become. We have to support them with that. Policy, I'm not a policy man on George and the streets every day, working with families and young people. And I think as we continue to do more work, that work should be more policy. One of the challenges that we have, I think it's a policy matter, is that because we're funding from our state, we cannot support county level uniform probation. Think about that. The funding would not allow us to prevent county level uniform probation from becoming involved in the state juvenile justice. We can't offer them mentoring, we can't offer them services, rapid math, whatever the case may be, because the funding is not organized that way. So if we're gonna really, move into a transformative space for our community, we have to advocate, with our officials and our elected officials that we have to reallocate and merge and combine funding to heal our community. We need every dime and every piece of resource pulled together so that we can do the work collectively. Because we are not divided here between county level youth and state level youth. These are youth in our community, each area. And also for families, we have to support, them in a different way. One adjustment that the state has made, that we advocated for was start reentry before they before they were sending you home to us with nothing, you could even get record, right? But now we're beginning to reach the kind of the release process, early engagement with family members that we can support with that. So there's hope in this situation, but the important part of these opportunities to share and dig together is that we have to be aware of what's happening in our communities so that we can advocate for the best interests of young people in their areas. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if you saw everything. She's ready to talk about. I'm gonna take a moment and thank you, Jeff. Another definition, this came up and was certainly a human talk on Tracy, but also in Julia's comments about needing to pay attention to females, providing more services and support for females. And for all of you, the issue of race has come up, disparities and racial disparities. I guess they're also talking about gender disparities and sort of access to services. And then Tracy talked about the availability of resources to support youth within our community. So I'm going to take an opportunity to just read a very brief definition of something that's called transition adjustment. How many of you are aware of this thing that's called the Midwest Transitional Justice Network? And it's located here at the University of Illinois. Okay, so and transitional justice is often contrasted with restorative justice, where restorative justice is focused on a breach of the relationship. So I may have done something with pissing off or murder in some way. And restorative justice is about repairing, preventing and repairing harm in that relationship. And transitional justice is a much broader concept. And there's real brief definition from the Midwest Transitional Justice Network website. And it says something like combating racism and social injustice requires that the U.S. pursue transitional justice, which is the process of facing system technology past and present in order to transform the relationships among citizens and between citizens and the state. And you can see that notion embedded in some of the comments that were happening about healing communities, providing appropriate resources for better outcome for females. That's a very different level of intervention from working with an individual child. So thinking more broadly about our community, families, network, a large community. So with that, Erica Hughes is the coordinator of the Juvenile Initiative. I think she's going to tell us a little bit about that project.
Yes, Redeploy Illinois is money that comes through the Illinois Department of Human Services to provide community-based alternatives to who would otherwise go to BJJ. It was established by statute in 2005, and we have expanded pretty much everywhere we could possibly be in this state, including we've got 4 calendars now, who recently had their final plan grant approved, and they're beginning their phase 2, which is implementation.
So the redeploy program is unique and addresses a lot of the issues that we've heard about today. There's a lot of flexibility in what the money can be spent on. And the redeploy board has made an effort to make changes to the program so that we can better support you with the goal of trying to achieve long-term positive outcomes for them and their families. So we serve youth who are under the jurisdiction of the juvenile court, who have committed an offense that could be punished by commitment. We have client care coordinators who basically create case plans that complement probation case plans and provide wraparound services from a menu of options. The grant doesn't go to a social service agency, it goes to a county unit of government. In some cases, it's the mental health board, sometimes I think it's the planning commission. Because there's a planning grant going on right now in Champaign. And so it goes to a county unit of government who then disperses the money to subcontractors. So the idea is that you have a menu of options and you pick and choose based on what these youth need when they come into our program and are assessed. And we are currently using a matrix developed by the board, backed up by research. That's my background too, so I'm kind of big on that. We have 7 targeted domains: education, employment, health and wellness, safety, life skills, relationship, community connections, like community civic engagement and service. And so, we're in the process now of sort of reinventing the YMCA, which is a youth assessment and training tool. So that we're not trying to identify the level of risk committed of a crime. Because that's what probation does, their focus is on those criminogenic risks. We want to take a more holistic, positive youth development approach, identify assets and strengths, as well as areas of need individually for each kid. Redeploy looks different from site to site, it looks different from kid to kid. Because it is completely based, all of the services that are received are based on what that youth and the family needs. When I say flexibility, there's a lot of flexibility with the spending. The board feels like the safety and health and wellness domains are sort of priority. And so what we're starting to see are things, a lot of intensive services up front, many of which could be outside of the home and in social service agencies. While the coordinator and caseworkers work to stabilize the home. And as the youth moves through the program, they start getting more and more of their services in the home. And we are seeing an impact on families. We can hire staff. So we have sites to hire parental engagement specialists. The sole role of that person is to keep the family engaged, to work with the parents, connect them to the services that they need. Finding gender-specific programs. You would just identify the population that redeploy serves. So redeploy can give you a subcontract to work with those youth who are in probation and are high need, doctors, for psychological evaluations, which are extremely expensive. And no matter how much is spent on the kids in this program, it is a fraction, a tiny fraction of the amount that's spent sending the kids to BJJ. And so you're saving the state money in the long run. I just did an annual report, and since 2005, redeploy saved the state over $185 million in incarceration costs. And that's money that goes back into the communities. It's unique. I would encourage you to take the opportunity to participate in this planning process. and do a good job with it, with a lot of technical assistance. That's the other cool thing about it too. It's a non-competitive, funding opportunity. We've got enough money in the budget to fund any site that wants to see a redeployed program. Our budget keeps going up and up and up because there's more and more interest. And so now we've been able to take away that competitive process, which means hands-on technical assistance, not only from me and some of my, team at DHS, but also our current sites. We're the best source of information. Barriers, I would say, are, addressing the gun violence. We're scrambling to try to learn, what our providers need so that they can, address those issues that are going on. And right now, we're just trying to stabilize these families. We're getting the power turned back on, we're getting the water turned back on, we're getting school clothes bought, the school supplies. We've got sites that have closets full of clothes that they can give, furniture that people have donated, diapers, wipes, cleaning products, things like that, and hoping that, trying to just put, stabilize that family, will help get them going in the right direction. But we need to do something now about the gun violence, and so that's something that must be built into this planning process, and it has to be addressed.
Thank you. I'm
Yeah,
gonna interrupt you.
yeah, I'm sorry.
No shade on it. We're almost out of time.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. So, I have an ulterior motive, which is, I'm very interested in exploring the possibility of developing a regional initiative in Champaign County. And listening to Erica and the other thought leaders here, the idea of developing something that's tailored, something that focuses on network, that maybe focuses on female, that maybe focuses on vulnerable children from 10 to 12. I also am fighting my friend Margaret at the College of Law. I would love to consider how the College of Law might be involved in a redeployed initiative providing legal services to youth and families, and also guidance to the larger community. It is exactly 1 o'clock, which means our time is up. But if you need to leave, please feel free to do so. But if you have a question, I think our friends can stay a little longer. We'll be happy to answer other questions. Yes.
I just wanted to mention another program for girls. The Writers of OSHA had, it started in Urbana, and now both libraries live, and so basically it's young girls of color who get together and write poems and slams, and basically it's a way to mama and but also a way of learning to use your voice and find your voice. And I'm really super happy that both libraries are doing this. People they have to ship that learning and general shaping are amazing. So that's one of the resiliency things that I think happening that is really
Thank you so much. Other comments or questions?
Well, I was going to lament further the lack of statistics because Drea Hall last week gave an overall greater disparity issue to juvenile justice. But I don't know if we know when it's in Champaign County. Champaign County historically has been the highest rate of disparity in corrections, period, not juvenile. But that's just a point I'd like to address. You say on that, but not in high school. I go back a bit and I recall that the juvenile detention center was a locus for a lot of controversy when Judge Stein reorganized it. He said he wanted to reorganize it with the ambience of Menard, which is a level of penitentiary. So we have come a bit from that, but we haven't heard about maybe intercept 0.5 or something, because people that go there aren't even charged with anything. It's in a circumstance they have to be removed or something. So that's one thing that I thought would be a good thing to speak to.
Do I take any questions from the citizens?
Well, I mean.
We've got the sociologist here.
Yeah, we've got James data, that's the type of data, and we can do some analysis to determine.
This is all offline.
I think that's something that, you know. Yeah.
You have nothing to say about the way the detention center is run right now? Could you,
Yeah, what's your specific question?
it doesn't have the ambience of Menard anymore, right?
So there have been, this is my.
Have there been any changes in the way people are processed?
Well, I don't, okay, so I don't really know what you're asking me about, if there have been any changes made. So the detention center was announced, for a capacity of 42. It's licensed by the state for a capacity of 25. So it's a very big space. We generally have a population of in the low teens, so we're usually underpopulated, which is a good thing. We have had issues lately with getting detention center staff, because it's a very difficult job. It's a 24/7 operation. The state requires that detention center staff have a college degree, which limits the pool of people who are interested in working in this difficult environment. And frankly, sometimes it can get pretty dangerous, because the young people who are detained in the detention center are, again, we're talking about gun violence, dangerous situations. Right now, the majority of young people in the detention center are charged with murder. They're gun violence crimes. And they have, there are conflicts among them, and so they are often fighting with each other, and the staff have to get in the middle of that and pick them up. And I've seen some videos from inside the detention center that are pretty brutal. At the same time, we are required and to provide education opportunities, medical assistance, mental health treatment, and there are many community organizations that come into the detention center and attempt to support the young people who are in the center. So you might have heard that recently we had all of our youth in custody boarded in other counties, and that was because frankly we didn't have staff. And we needed to kind of regroup in the staff that we had vacation time that they haven't been able to take and get new staff trained. So they're back now in the Champaign County Youth Detention Center. And I would say that people who work in that detention center, many of them form relationships with the young people. They try to make changes in their thought process. They try very hard to be actually caring and help them move forward in a positive direction. But it's a difficult population that they're dealing with and a difficult situation. So I don't know if that answered your question, other than, that it's a very complex and difficult arena to work in. And so if anyone really wants to get involved, my students, really want us to have an impact on young people who are in the midst of a difficult state of their lives, consider that a job, like it's tough.
Tracy, you look like you were reaching for the mic to get back to that. We want to cover everything. Yeah, any other questions or comments?
Mine is good to say, just as I think we reached a point where we understand the importance of what's called cultural competency when it comes to issues of race and racism and systemic oppression and that kind of thing. I think that we accepted gratefully that, we need to be offering specific care, specific services. And that's why it's important to do specific target for the Black folks. And their qualifications for that, I think, everyone would acknowledge. I would say the same thing, applies to understanding the role of girls and women in this patriarchy. And I think Julia did a good job of describing that whole thing. And so I would just say, as people are thinking about reaching out and doing specific target workers, that approach is done with a feminist consciousness, just as we expect that work done with Black boys is done with a racial justice consciousness. We need some gender justice consciousness, not just, oh, there's money out here, we need to stand up. We need to be much more involved. And that's what I mean by the walk the walk. Right. You know, it's not, I mean, it's fantastic to have funding from the states. There's money. That's great. But the question is, who and what are we going to do with that money?
That's a great
You
question.
know, it's not enough just to say, let's make a program. It's who, you know, and like I said, I've been around long enough to know that it's a person with passion, and we keep pointing to that because, you know, it's a person with passion. It's a person with passion yourself, you know, who makes change and stay. That's, you know, probably the biggest problem. We find money, we hire people, stay for a little bit, and leave, you know, they don't create that sense of community and that true, you know, concern for the individual that they're working with.
I see Karen over there, but I want to make one brief plug to it. I'm on the board of directors of the Dream Girls Academy. We work with a lot of people in this room, but Dream Girls is another group that works with girls and young women. Also next on November 11th, from 3 to 6 p.m. free at the I Hotel, Sally Carter and her organization, One Square Four Sides, has organized Victory Fest Now. That's the website is victoryfestnow.org. No, sorry, .com. And it will include a youth development section. We're having youth poets, youth singers, youth dancers. It's a showcase of various services that are available in the community. And Sally Carter has risen from a lot of trauma herself and is really addressing the joy that's in the room too. So that's Victory Fest Now, November 11th, 3 to 6 p.m. I Hotel, free. Okay.
I just want to ask about trans youth in the juvenile adults and how their training needs are trans youth in the juvenile adults.
Julie, what's the, speaking of how much, who is the supervisor? For the criminal detention?
Keith Willis.
Okay, and who's her, is it other people making the answers? So my question is to be specific programs, climate issues. If you want to take the question around, this meeting, yeah, I know.
Honestly, it's not a huge population. It's very suburban as far as trans youth in the who actually end up in the court system. So I don't think that, you know, I'm assuming we don't have any significant thing. Program to address their needs, because we don't see, you know, I guess I shouldn't say that, because probably more in the. Sorry, I'm thinking because I want to answer your question thoughtfully. And so are you asking, like, do we have specific?
Well, for instance, they need not community bathroom. They need to not be forced to be a vendor. Women go here, right, and the boys go here. They also need, special hormone treatments if they're going to do that. They need different counseling. They have a lot of hurdles that other people, on top of the hurdles and other people. Okay, and the bullying happens too.
Yes, so I feel like the questions you're asking are really more internal in the youth detention center or in the adults. Jail, and those are really questions that I haven't good answer for. So I think those are the questions that are like.
Thank you for raising this question. I want to go back to something behind all the specificity and thinking about all the many different communities that juvenile justice has been working in, and then the idea that we to respond to all of those communities with deep thought, planning, and compassion.
I mean, I generally say, as I said to this gentleman, that our action was no more wanting to and certain numbers allow us to be able to, separate and give space, and of course, we, certainly if it was medication that prescribed, it's required that all rules are dependent on that to make sure people get the medication that they need when they're actually in our custody. But as far as any specific policy or example, I'm not the person that give an answer to that.
Well, I want to share that, we at Janine, our day reporting center, did receive a young woman who identifies, as a young woman, and we were scrambling, and even the state, was scrambling as well. So my experience is that you're not prepared for all of it, before they come home. And that's again, area where we got to do some work so that all you can stay and supported and release.
So, would you join me in thanking the host of this morning, and please be sure next week, face to face